Welcome. Today we're sitting down with Olivia O'Toole, a legend in Irish football, record goal scorer with an incredible 130 caps and 54 goals to her name. In this conversation, we're going to delve into Olivia's lifelong relationship with football, from the streets of inner city working class Dublin to the international stage. It's a fairy tale story. We're going to talk about how Olivia insulated herself from a heroin epidemic which was rife in Dublin at the time. It was unfolding in the streets right outside her door. She'd lose family and friends to the drug, but her focus was unwavering. Olivia's pushed for equality in sport. She's overcome really bleak conditions, but she has endured to become one of Ireland's greatest ever sporting figures. Not everybody is ready to hear this conversation, but if you are ready, get ready to go deep. Olivia O'Toole, welcome to the Roadman Podcast.
Thanks very much, Anthony.
How are you?
Fine, great fun.
What's your relationship like with football these days since you retired?
It's a relationship that I have with football. It's a love of football. So I go to every single game, every women's game that I can get my hands on.
Seriously? You're hardcore still?
Oh yeah, like today I just put away my phone. I'm at to be watching Manchester United and playing that Villa. They're winning 2-0. And I'd have the Premier League ladies WSL on my laptop, then I'd watch the FAI player on my telly, then I'd watch the League of Ireland women. So on any given Saturday, I'd be watching 3 games. It's
mad because we were chatting a little bit off air, and my life until I was definitely till I was 18, 19, I didn't actually know a world outside football. All I'd done was go on the Mitch from school, play football all day, go in the park, practice free kicks on my own all day, wait till the lads got off school, play football with them until it got dark. Yeah. And then get up the next day and repeat it all over again. I could have told you who was playing in, Division 3. I could name the whole team, their bench, everyone. But then when I got to that point where I was like, okay, I'm not going to make it as a pro, I was like, boom. I couldn't name 40 Arsenal players now. And I was a really big Arsenal fan at the time. So it's funny, isn't it, how people have different relationships. Some people just walk away from it after.
Oh yeah, I've known girls like that's played with Arsenal for the best part of 15 years of their life, and they've no involvement in football whatsoever now. Like Emma Bourne, she's doing the commentary. Yvonne Tracy played for Arsenal, Kayla Grant plays for Arsenal, but they're not involved with football. I think Yvonne is actually getting up Treaty United. She's getting involved there. But the likes of Kayla, who played 15 years for Arsenal, she has no involvement whatsoever, which I find mad because when you grow up playing football, to me, it's a passion. So your passion is with you for life, so that's why I'm still involved. And I have my own team now. I couldn't just walk away from it. Just can't.
And do you still kick football? I know you're involved coaching. Well, would you still meet the girls and have a five-a-side?
Well, no, not really now because I'm way over the age. I'm 53 now next month, so...
The aches and pains are creeping in.
Oh, I can feel them. My brain wants to play constantly, but the minute I stop playing, I have to take 2 paracetamol because I'm in agony. And that's for probably 20, 30 minutes of football. I actually played a charity game there 3 weeks ago for Shelbourne ladies for a girl who was sick. And I played the whole 90 minutes and I was so sore after it, so sore. I had to have a bath. And then 2 paracetamol and a cup of hot chocolate after it, for the aches. But my brain wants to play, but my body can't.
My dad's still the chairman of the local football team. And so I have a load of friends I used to play with them. They're all managers and stuff now. But I, still run a bit. I'm still cycling. So I'm still going to try to stay fit. And in my head, I thought, I could easily go back to football at any time. But I went back last year with the lads team and, they're all 10, 15 years younger than me now. Yeah. And I done 2 sessions in pre-season. My God. I felt like I can't even imagine how I used to do that. Jumping, sliding, running different directions. I felt like I jumped out of a car the next day. I was sore everywhere.
That's my exercises now, is going for a walk along the Permanent in Clontarf to the bridge and back. And that's it. I did it yesterday. It's what I do. I go for walks now, hotel, and just to get out and just feel the air. But I do my training with the girls as well, so.
Well, brand new set of coat on Monday, as there, one wear if you're looking for a buyer.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to you after the podcast.
So I'm kind of curious because, me and you were not exactly the same age, but I feel like we played football in a similar era where you played on the streets and it was all people really done. Anywhere around Dublin, you could go onto any house in the state and there was a game of football going. Like I used to go up to the park on a Saturday morning. We didn't play till Sundays. I'd go up to the park on a Saturday morning with my boots and just walk around and go, any games? And just some teams would be like, oh, we'll throw you on for 10 minutes if they knew who you were. And that was the way. But culturally, it's so different now, 15, 20 years later, because every kid you see, even whether it's in the park or a restaurant, they're all on phones, they're all on iPads, they're a different shape.
It's a different generation. Like, I mean, when a boy of 16 and 17 says to me, I'm not interested in football, I'm like, well, what do you do with your life? You know, it's shocking. And this is my nephew, like, he's 80, he's no interest whatsoever. And he's not into games, he's just not a sporty person. But he'll sit and watch Man United play. Do you know, like that? But he never touched the ball in his life. You know, so there is people out there that have no interest in it playing, but will watch them religiously, like the football.
But is it impacting the skills end of it? Because I remember we've a little neighbour and I see him playing down the local park and he must be 12 or 13 years old. And I was saying to him, oh, do the Maradona 7 for me there. And, you know, left foot solo, right foot solo, right knee, left knee, shoulder, head. Like, I remember learning how to do that. I was probably 8 or 9 the first time I do that. Like, it's basic enough for anyone who plays football all day.
For keepy-uppies, like that's why that was the Maradona keepy-uppie. And if you say that to a child today,
I haven't a clue what I was talking about.
I've got a clue. But what I noticed, Anthony, is in every single housing estate, no football.
Yeah.
A sign saying no football. And this is where it hurts me because I grew up in a housing estate and flats playing football against the wall, right foot, left foot, practice constantly on my own. And now kids can't do it. Yeah, I just can't get my head around not letting a child play in a housing estate if he hasn't got a park. You know, so that really, because the thing to me about footballers is the street footballer.
Yeah.
The street footballer, you're talking about Pele, Maradona, Messi, Ronaldo, every single one of them grew up in street football. But you will never get a player like them anymore because they're not allowed to play street football.
And we had a whole era of that with the Irish lads, definitely, where it's Robbie Keane, Damien Duff. Yeah. You know, you look at the estates they're coming from, they're all coming from Crumlin, Tala, places where football is just a religion. It was a social currency nearly in school. You know, I went to a school that had kind of a mixed enough demographic to be some people who are middle class families, but a lot of working class families in it as well. And it was a hard, tough school. But your currency in school, if you got picked on or not, was were you a good footballer? I always had a really easy time through school because I could play football.
Yeah.
And that social currency is kind of changing now, I think, in schools where it's nearly, are you into gaming or it's a bizarre world I don't even really recognise.
Yeah, but when did you ever think that a boy of 14 years of age, go into school and say, I'm not into football, I'm not into sports, I want a game? Like the gaming thing now is a big thing now at the moment, but to me it's a lazy sport because you just sit down with a stick in your hand and do this and do that, and the kids is not getting exercises, and I feel like the schools could do more for, because there's a school up there, O'Connell's, they don't allow footballs in the yard when they're playing. They get them a tennis ball. To me, that's getting the football away from the child. Do you know what I mean? Do
you remember you used to have them matches in the yard, but there'd be like maybe 20 different matches going on in the same yard, so everyone's trying to dodge each other in this chaotic game.
Yeah, and jumpers for goalposts, just jumpers everywhere all over the yard.
So you're talking about O'Connell's. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cherry Street, just up the road from O'Connell's. Like my brothers went to O'Connell's school.
And what was like growing up?
It was great. My childhood, what I like, when I think about my childhood, I smile. So it was obviously a good childhood because all I remember is, like you just said there, it was like a little routine. Left school, got your football, stayed out till 8, 9. Mother calling you in for your dinner, you don't want to go in. And it's the same thing every single day. But the only thing I didn't mitch on school like you. But that was my life. I went in, 6 years of age, my dad introduced me to Match of the Day. And I was memorised. The music. I'm memorised, absolutely. And I'm like talking about it now, and I'm 53. So you're talking, I was watching Match of the Day for nearly 46 years.
Yeah.
6 years of age, my dad introduced me to it. And to this day, I still watch it every day.
There's something magical about it. I remember hearing, it was like the first time I heard the Beatles. the first time I heard that Match of the Day music,
Yeah.
probably again the same, my dad's from the same street as you, and hearing that music, it was like a spell was cast on me as a kid. I was like, this is all life is about, is getting on this show. How do I get on this show?
This hour and a half we wait for the whole week.
When my dad talks about growing up in Sheriff Street, all he talks about is community, the crack, how people had each other's back, and he loved it. Was that your
That's
experience?
exactly the way I have to describe it. People, like, as you know, hasn't got a good name because of the heroin epidemic, the rob cars, but in the 2000s now, it's like people are just coming together for, like, they're getting up running clubs, they're getting cycling clubs, football clubs, people just come together. If, like, for instance, if a girl had terminal cancer, people just come together and give them their dinner, look after the kids, make sure that the person who has the cancer is very well looked after before they go. And they do it with every single person in Sheriff Street. Like, I mean, when I carried the Olympic torch, and I seen the amount of people out in Sheriff Street supporting me and my family, it was so humble. It was so, I was like gobsmacked that these amount of people were coming out to see this and the Olympic torch. And it just gives you a sense of feeling that you're overwhelmingly humbled to be in this community, So that's where I came from, Sheriff Street, and I'm so, so proud from coming from there. I know it has a bad name, but I'll never, ever say to anybody, I don't come from there, because it's my life. That's where I came from. I loved growing up. Growing up was the best time in my life, was growing up in the flats, playing against the poles, playing against the walls, playing with my brothers and sisters.
How big a role does football play in keeping you away from other temptations like drink, drugs, antisocial stuff?
Absolutely, 100%. I don't think I'd be here, Anthony, if I'd have went the wrong way. I wouldn't be here speaking to you, no, because I've lost numerous of friends through heroin, through drink, through drugs. And I remember saying to myself, if I go this way, I won't be here for the next 10, 15 years.
Sport's powerful like that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Football literally dragged me away from the drink and the drugs. Because if you went left, you were gone. If you go right, in the right direction, but an awful lot of willpower you needed to say to yourself, I have to go a different direction, because if I'm going this direction, I won't be here for long.
But what is that? Is it you've a vision in your head that you can be, did you ever think it was possible for you to go on to become an Irish international player, a record ever goal scorer?
Not then.
So what keeps you away from that when someone says to you, like a friend who, regrettably was addicted to heroin for a while, I remember him saying to me, never try it because you'll absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And like, what keeps you from, at that moment, when someone says to you, Olivia, why don't you try this? What stops you doing it? I know how serious you take your goal setting, whether they're fitness or life-related goals. If you're looking for a powerful ally to support you on this journey, look no further than Huel. Huel has become my secret weapon for when I don't have time to prepare a balanced meal. It ensures I get the nutrition I need without sacrificing time or taste. Plus, it stops me from reaching for that takeaway menu. I always throw a bottle into my backpack when I'm heading into the city to work, and it stops me eating junk convenience foods, snacking on croissants and bars of chocolate, because I know they don't support my training goals. It's a handy, nutritious meal on the go, and it's got over 22 grams of protein. Huel is perfect for athletes that don't have time to cook or prepare food before a training session. It's convenient, nutritious fuel at your fingertips, ensuring you hit your daily fueling needs for that session. Huel Ready to Drink has 26 essential vitamins and minerals in every single bottle. You're getting a whopping 175 health benefits. Plus, it's made from natural ingredients like tapioca, sunflower seed, coconut, and more. The best part? It's the flavours. There's 8 crazy, beautiful flavours. Iced coffee is what's in my backpack right at the moment. You can get Huel directly to your home. All you got to do is head on over to the Huel website, huel.com/roadman.
It's just because I know I have a very, very, very addictive personality, and my addiction was football. So I knew if I went with the heroin and the drugs, I wouldn't be here. But you have to understand, I had a passion for the game, and it was just, I lived, breathed, and ate football. And I know if I hadn't got it, I wouldn't be here. But my friends tormented me to go to the weekend drinking and But I just knew I had a thing. I knew I was good at what I did. I knew I was, but I didn't think there was a career in it, because when I was growing up, I had no women idols to look up to.
Yeah.
My idols were Steffi Graf and Martina Navratilova playing tennis.
Yeah.
I didn't know any women footballers, and so me looking up to them, they kept me out of. I was like, well, if it's a sport and I can play for the rest of my life, well, I'm going to do it.
And even them as idols, it's great to have an idol to look up to, but they're not someone you can massively identify with, because firstly, they're not Irish. Secondly, they're not working class Dublin people, and they're not footballers. So it's so different for the girls now, because the generation now, your Katie McCabe's, who are, massive international stars, they've been able to look at your generation and look at you and say, well, look, Olivia accomplished this with her background. What's my excuse?
Well, Katie came from a tough estate in Tallaght as well. Like, you
Really?
know, yeah, absolutely. Like, and Katie's Tallaght is a bit like Sheriff Street, where there's rob cars, drugs, everything. But she obviously went to the right direction as well. It's very hard when people have a name for like Sheriff Street. It's a drug den. It's nothing. The people, you have to go into these communities and see what other people do, other than the rob cars and the drugs. Because the other people come around, put their arm around you and say, this is the direction you need to go. You can't go that direction. So there is people in the community that put their arm around, like Hugo Richardson. I was 11 years of age, and he put his arm around me. He says, you need to be here. You need to be playing with the boys, because I'd no girls' team. So, like, there's a few people around that I can count on my hand, that I am where I am because of them, because of a little few words that they says to me.
But the role of environment, we all know now what creates athletes. It's the scientists will call it genotype plus phenotype equals outcome. The layperson will say it's the talent you're born with plus the environments that you live in. That equals your output. You could have the most talented person in the world, but if you put them in the wrong environment, they're never going to become a Lionel Messi. They're never going to become a Katie McCabe. So you had undoubted natural talent, but then you have this environment that's trying to pull you in every direction. David Gillick talked about when he took his running scholarship to the States, for the first time, he got around a group of people and he's like, whoa, this is my group. These are my people, because they don't want to go out on the piss on a Friday, Saturday night, because they have a session the next day. They're talking about their splits on the track rather than what drugs they're going to take at the weekend. And immediately he felt like, oh, I can relax. These are my people. I can relax. How did you carve out your people inside a world that was pretty chaotic?
Well, I was actually in Foss, and there was a girl there named Trisha Ryan. And I was 17, 18. And I was getting worried because I was being told I couldn't play with the boys anymore. And I was getting worried because I didn't know there was any girls' teams around. And she asked me to go up to Drunk 100 Ladies. So like that, what you just said, when I went into that environment at first, I was like, oh my God, these girls can play like me. Where are these girls? I never knew they were around. And these girls could actually play like me, as in a good player, as in not just kicking the ball around and just, they were actually 4-4-2 in a formation that I seen on Match of the Day for my whole life. And when I went into this environment like David, they were speaking my language. They wanted to play football. They didn't want to go out drinking. They didn't want to take drugs. They just wanted to play football.
So before going to them, you had to play on lads' teams all the way up?
Oh yeah, I played with Sheriff Boys team from the age of 11 up to 17. Yeah, because I did the one game that I did play was in Phoenix Park, and I was 16. And I went up for a ball with a head, and I actually accidentally busted the boy's nose. And then all into the confusion, the manager, what is she doing here? She's a girl. And Hugo, my manager, like, and have you got a problem with that? He says, no, but why is she playing with boys? Because I've no girls' team. But the team wouldn't continue.
And because you were good enough.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the main thing.
But the team that I was playing against wouldn't continue.
That's embarrassing for them, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what I said. I says, you're asking me to leave a girl, to leave an 11-a-side boys' team because you're afraid. And he turned around and he says, yeah, you're too good.
So you were that good against the lads.
Yeah.
But see, this is the thing people don't realise, like, when people make it, like, I remember Richie Dunn, went on to be an Irish international footballer, and he was, I think, the age group above me, And when he got to the Premier League and Irish International, even the jokes in the stands were about, his second touch is a tackle.
Yeah.
Like, he's shocking, like, touch for an international level. He's looked absolutely brutal on the pitch. But he was like Lionel Messi at under 16, under 17. Like, you would look at him and go, oh my God, he can run the pitch at will. The gap is unbelievable. Like, when you see people now at 15, 16, lads going on, I'm going to be making a pro. Unless they're standing out at that level, like, you're a girl who's the best lad in an under 15s team. And that's what it takes to go on and be an international.
Well, that's why I'm still good, because I knew I was good, because the boys never held back like the Sheriff boys when we were training, like 50-50s, slide tackles, they never held back. But when other teams knew I was a girl, they did. But it was the sorriest thing they ever did, because we won the game, but that day, I'll never forget it, because I went over to Hugo and I says to Hugo, Hugo, I won't be able to play football anymore. I want me to go. And I started crying. And he was like, Livy, don't worry about it. We'll sort it. We'll see. So we went to the Herald. Frankie's name was. He was a freelance journalist for the Herald. But he always knew, he followed my career from the age of 11 up. And he came over to me and he says, Livy, we have to do something about this. So we had called a meeting with the district boys Lake. So that's where the age gap was changed from a girl.
You got that?
I got a change.
Rule change. And is that still the rule?
It's still the rule. You can play from the age of up to 17 with boys.
It's bizarre that you can't just play full stop. If you're good enough, why?
Yeah, but we'll see, that's...
Changing rooms and stuff, maybe an issue.
Yeah, you need separate changing rooms, and, you can't just we let girls play with boys. There's an awful lot of rules. There's, as I said, the dressing rooms needs to be separated from the boys. But up to 17, they should be allowed, and they are allowed now. But that's why I played, because there was no girls' team. So when I was 17, 18, I went to Drumcondra Ladies. First girls' team I ever seen in my life.
Even I'm thinking the stuff that you would do back in the day probably just isn't acceptable now, even around child safety with managers. Like, I remember my dad was the manager for our football team, and, from probably 5, 6 years old, we were going abroad on trips, and no one was going abroad. So this was unreal. We were going to Liverpool and playing these solar World Cups and stuff where the teams from all over the world. But my dad and maybe one other parent, it'd bring 14, 15 kids away. We'd be absolutely running amok. Everyone's drinking, everyone's going missing. And at one point we had a trip, we went to Italy and we must have been 15. And I remember my dad asking one of the lads on the team to do a head count on the bus. And to your man, he was 15 and he was probably drinking. He'd done a bad head count. Counted the full team there, even though one of the lads was missing. One of the lads had gone for, I don't know what he'd done, but he missed the boat. So he was stranded in a different country on his own at age 15. This was pre-mobile phones. This was pre-internet. So we've arrived in Italy and gone, where's our keeper, Joe gone?
It'd have been child neglect.
This would be on RTE News now.
It would have been as well.
But I think it is, I do sympathise a lot for the volunteers now in football teams, because it's all volunteer driven, and there's a lot more procedural hoops and stuff they have to jump through now than you would have had to do then.
Well, look, you can't coach any team from underage to senior unless you have your child, the child course. You need to do your child course for even to coach now, which is great, because as you know, when I was growing up, I never had a woman coach. Never, from the time I started playing to the time I finished, I never had a woman's coach. You know what I mean? So that's going to change now. But the child and the regulations has to be in because of all, yourself, the people coming in and just volunteering and not being happy and doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing,
Like it's a very moving scene. You are 15, 16 years old crying your eyes out because you think you're not going to play football anymore. But that's what kids are like with football, because it's your whole life. You don't know anything outside that world. I remember not making a Dublin representative team for a Kennedy Cup match, which was like a representative tournament back in the day. And I didn't make the panel for it. And the team used to be announced in the Evening Herald. And so you'd run in, you grab the Evening Herald and you're flicking through. It sounds like we're talking about the 1800s here now, but there was no internet. So you're flicking through the newspaper, waiting to see your name. You didn't see your name. And I can still remember that feeling. It was like my world ended at 15 years old going, oh my God, what am I going to do?
I'm finished.
I'm done at 15.
Yeah. That's why, like, when I just heard a stranger man saying to me, "You'll never play again in the boys' team," and I was like, "Oh no, Hugo, he can't say that because he was just a stranger to me." Where Hugo was like, "You're gonna play with us for life," because there was no girls' teams then. But when I went to the girls' team the first time, I had to ask Hugo to come with me because I was apprehensive. I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. But as you said, when I went into that environment, it was my environment.
Yeah.
And it was it was like a whole mountain was that being took off my shoulders because I was up like that. I didn't know when I was going to be playing football. I didn't know what, I was crying to me ma, I was crying to me dad. And next of all, Trish Ryan comes out of nowhere, "Come on, have a girls' team." And it was like going into a different village.
Yeah.
You know, from Sheriff Street to Drumcondra Ladies up in Talca Park. That's where we played. And I felt so warm, felt so welcomed, so at home. That was a relief. I was like, I don't have to go home now and explain anything to anybody that I'm at to be playing with boys and I shouldn't have been. And, so me just getting on my boots now, going playing and coming home with no hassle was a relief for me as well.
And were you still living in Sheriff Street when you were playing for?
Yeah, I didn't leave my mother's till I was 19, 20. When I left my ma's, I was still with Drumcondra Ladies. Then I went to Raheny United.
So you're going back and forth between these two worlds where you're going back, you're with your crew in Drumcondra, girls who are all, they're ambitious, they're motivated, they all have the same type of goals, break into international teams, they're all ambitious and a certain type of person. And then you're going back to Sheriff Street and it's a world that at that point was getting ravaged by the heroin epidemic, like one of the hardest hit parts of the country with the heroin epidemic. So I'm assuming you have family members and you have friends who are touched by that. How do you balance living in those two worlds?
Well, see, my release was me football. Like I'd be in Sheriff Street, say all day after school playing. There's my friend over there, he's banging up over in the corner. And then another fella drinking over in the other corner. And I'm probably in the middle of them playing football. Because it was on the street, it was everywhere. But my release and my comfort zone was a football. Like if I had that, nothing around me seemed, there was nothing around me, just me and me ball and nothing else. But
you built a wall around yourself.
I built a wall deliberately to keep all this negative away from me. Because as you said, I had it in my family, I had it in my friends, it was everywhere. If I walked out of my mother's home, I walked 10 minutes down the road, there's somebody taking a turn on, there's somebody drinking. And I literally just walked through that and it was like I had a wall around me. I can't look at this, I have to go to Fairview Park, practice and come back. And that's what I did. And that's all I did. I was just kept my head down. But when I was with Sheriff and when I was with Drumcondra Ladies, I'd say between 4 and 5 years of that when the heroin epidemic came in, I'd lost about 10 friends. Because as your friend said, once heroin gets a hold of you, it's so, so hard to come off. And it's an addiction that it's so hard to come off. And I used to talk to my friends, please, Olivia, I'm going up to get rehab, I'm going through. And then you see them the next week, they're still the same. And then I'm going out to play for Ireland 2 hours before the game. We're on the bus and I get a phone call in the hotel. Your friend just passed away. Twice it happened to me when I was playing for Ireland. So to me, hearing that made me so sad, but it also gave me motivation. Livy, this is why you're here. This is why you didn't want to go down that road, because I wouldn't be here.
Your career, it's defined by many things, the appearances, the goals, the stance you took and even helping the girls in 2017 to get better quality. But leadership is also one of the common recurring themes all the way through your career. People look to you for guidance, look to you for leadership. Was that something you felt? You said you built this wall around yourself in Sheriff Street where no one was gonna suck you into their world. No one was gonna lead you on another path. But did you find a pressure to drop that wall and try and say to people, try to be a leader that you were on the pitch in your community at that point, or you didn't have the strength to stay out of that world yourself and be a leader?
No, while I was playing with Ireland, I eventually got the captain's armband, and I got it around 27, 26, and I was coming and going in Cherry. And as you said, being a leader, I went into the community, back into Cherry, and I went into communities and I spoke to them about the path I took and the path you're taking now at the moment. And I have put my arm around people, and, you know, there's another way out of this before you go down this road. And I've spoke to them, and then 3 weeks later I'm getting told I'm dead. You know, so it was taking a toll on me, where I was saying to myself, it's no good just doing this and speaking to people, and then 3 weeks later it was breaking me. It was like a hammer banging me down every time I was going home. Because every time I was going home to Sheriff Street, there was no good news. It was either one of my friends is after dying, somebody else is after taking up heroin, somebody else is after taking this. And so, as you said, when I went into the environment with the girls, the footballers, I let that wall down, because I knew I wasn't talking about drugs, I wasn't talking about
your
drinks.
safe space.
It was my safe, absolute 100% safe space. I hated going back home after training and after matches, because I knew it was all negative, just negative. But how I coped with it was the girls on the team, and speaking about it. And in my later years, when I was playing, like being captain for Ireland, I actually let that brick wall go, because it was taking a burden on me. And I sort of stepped away from people in charity. I had to, later on in life, because it was getting to me. I wasn't in a good place at the time.
Yeah.
And I was only after being let go with Ireland as well. And it just hit me that this is what these people are going through, or I'm going through now at the moment. Down, depressed, don't want to be here, want to commit suicide. And, you know, like these the thoughts came through my head, I'd say twice in my lifetime. But they were bad situations I was in. You know?
I had someone on the podcast, name escapes me, but he gave me a brilliant story that it's such, not to give you advice, you're living through this, but it's something that I think about a lot when friends kind of reach out for help. And he was a rescue diver. So when the weather's bad and there's a fishing boat out at sea and it should be in harbour and it's stuck out there, they send a helicopter out to try and save the rescue or the fisherman. And he was the lad who jumped out of the helicopter into the sea to save people that had gone overboard. And he said once or twice in a career, you will jump out of the helicopter into the sea and you'll start swimming. And there'll be 5 places on the helicopter to save 5 people. And you'll start swimming and there's 7 or 8 people in the water. And you can only save 5 out of 7 or 8. So I said to him, well, how do you choose who you save? And he gave me a brilliant quote. He said, you can only save the people who swim towards you. And it's a brilliant quote for life as well, for like you going back home to Sheriff Street. You know, I'm sure you want to wave a magic wand and say, I'm going to help everyone.
Yeah,
but you can only help the people that want to be helped. You can only help the people that swim towards you.
Well, you can't bring a horse to the water and then make a drink, you know. So the only thing you can do is help. And if somebody is coming over to you and saying, Livy, I need help, I've got numerous of people to help, and they've gone on the good track. They've gone on to have not successful career, but just off drugs. They don't need them anymore. They're not dependent on them. And that's a good thing from just speaking to them. But as I said, there's numerous parts of that where people don't come back to me. You know, they end up taking their own life. They end up doing overdoses. And while I was growing up, an awful lot of that happened. And to this day, it's still happening.
And I think when you're in the community versus when you're outside the community looking in, when you're outside the community looking in, media label things like, you know, junkies, and they use these disparaging terms. But when you're in a community, you realise these aren't bad people. These are sick people. These are people who have an illness that needs treatment. So you're losing good people who are ill by suicide, by overdose.
That's what I'm saying. You look at these people, and when they're not on their drugs, they are so helpful, humble. You know, they give you a last penny, but the minute they take the drug, they're a different person. And that's why you like to speak to them when they're not on it, because when they're on it, they're in another world. They don't know where you are. And then the next day they'll say to you, Olivia, was I speaking to you last night? You know, and I'll just say, yeah, we were talking, just said hello. Because you don't want to go into it, you know, that they're at the speaking to you about, because you might get embarrassed.
Yeah.
Because you don't remember speaking to you, you know.
How much of a moment of relief and pride and kind of vindication for this system you'd built for yourself? You built this system of a bubble around you, and you were going to be the exception in this community. How much of a moment of vindication was that when you got that call up to say you're on the Irish team?
Well, see, that's just it. It wasn't a call, it was a letter.
A letter,
at the time, yeah.
So how does it work? You get called in, because we use that term loosely, you get called into the national team, but how does it work?
Well, how I got into the Irish team was there was a training session in Santry, the one just there at Morton Stadium.
Yeah.
Santry, and there was 500 girls of a Friday, and then they whittled it down to 300 on the Saturday, and then they whittled it down to 200 on the Sunday. Yeah, like an exhibition, you know, auditions. But so the Monday we went in, and there was 200 there, and he says, right, girls, there's 25 out of the 200 going to be picked. You're going to go home and you get a letter during the week. So as you know, you're sitting there waiting for the letter, and like you, if you don't get the letter, you're not going. So I got the letter, I think, the following Tuesday, and I says to my mum, I said, "Man, I'm going away. I'm going to play European football with Ireland, with Spain." And she said, that's very good, isn't it, Olivia? She hadn't got a clue what it was. Like, you know, my mum just seen me play football. She didn't get the magnitude of it. And I said, no, man, I'm going to play with Ireland. Yeah. But when I said it to my dad, he knew that. He was like, what? I said, yeah, Dad, there's the letter. I'm at getting picked with Ireland.
FAI letterhead?
Yeah, letterhead. Yeah, I actually still haven't been my first letter. And he, like, they had a little party, and, you know, we celebrated it. And I went to train and met up with the girls about 2 weeks later. And we flew out to Spain.
Unbelievable.
In Seville. And as you know, like, I mean, you're coming into this environment, all these girls looking around saying, well, obviously I'm good enough to be here, so they're here. So, and then we went to Seville, and I'll never forget Seville, because we walked down to the stadium and there was 7,000 people there, where every single one of them wearing a Spanish flag in their hand. And one of our delegates sitting in the stand with them with one Irish flag in her hand. And that was the biggest crowd that I've ever seen or played under or seen in the stadium. And it was a bit overwhelming, but the minute you hear your national anthem.
Because everyone that kicks a football anywhere in the world dreams of that moment where their national anthem plays. What's that like? That's
why I was crying, because I'm very patriotic. I love my country. And when I heard it for the first time, and you're standing there with your arms behind your back and your chest out, and you're so proud hearing your national anthem. And looking at people, looking around down the line, and the girls singing their hearts out, and it's just an overwhelming feeling that nobody will ever experience it, only if you do experience it. And when you do experience it, it's like you're playing, you're standing here for your country and playing for your country. And it's an overwhelming feeling of just absolute pride.
Does it feel real looking back on it? Does it feel like it was you, or does it feel like it was a movie?
It's like somebody else is standing there, but you're not, and you're sitting on the bench looking at yourself standing, singing the national anthem. That's the truth. And then when it's over, you have all the nerves, you have all this, but the minute it's over, you're just into football mode, and you're straight away into it. But what I remember of that day was the scream of the people after the Spanish national anthem. And I said to myself, oh my God, we are going to be slaughtered here. Like, you know, because it was their first European Championship. And it was a great game, actually, and it was very even. And the Spanish were on the same wavelength of Ireland at the time, were in the rankings and how they were getting on, like with the association and all, we were the same. But it was 1-0, 88 minute, and I think the 93rd minute I got the ball in their half. And I remember skipping to a player and taking on the shot. But when I took on the shot, 2 people came in and tackled me, and she gave me a dead leg. So when I was down on the ground after I hit me, I heard everyone screaming. bench, not the stadium. And I was like, God, I must have went in. But I couldn't get up because my leg was so sore, I was dead, and all the girls come over and Livy, you scored. And I was like, great girls, brilliant, and got up and looked at the bench and they were all like, yeah, Livy, yeah, it was brilliant. But the girls didn't know how big this win was because it was the first time.
What year was this?
1991.
1991.
It was the first time that an Ireland ladies team was ever at the winning away in the European Championship.
No way.
And we were established since 1973, so nearly 20 years later, it was the first game that Ireland were ladies ever. And I only noticed how big it was when I got home, because there's so much paparazzi when we came into...
All down Sheriff Street.
Yeah, when we came into Dublin Airport, like there was the Star, the Sun, the Herald, everyone wanted to speak to us, and that's when we found out, like, we were out there making history.
Record goal scorers seem to have to score on debut, I think. I was in Lansdowne when Robbie Keane scored, and that was, at the time, no one really knew what that was the start of. Exact same that day away in Seville. Could you have dreamed that you would go on to knock in? Was 54 goals?
54 goals, absolutely not, especially at international level, because it's so hard at the club. But see, I started off our left side of midfield, and I scored a few when I was there. But when I went, when Noel says to me, Olivia, I'm going to put you up front, I said, yeah, no problem. And that was 19 years, and I never knew in 16 years playing for Ireland I'd score 54 goals and 7 hat-tricks.
What makes it so impressive, I think, is the jump in level. Like, we talked about Robbie Keane there, but Robbie Keane stepping from, we try and name a Robbie Keane club, he's played for every club in Europe, but Robbie Keane stepping from Liverpool, Spurs, Inter Milan, wherever he was
football,
at that. Yeah, so the gap, it's not a huge jump. You're stepping from playing for Raheny for a good chunk of this, across the international.
In Alba College in Ballymun.
Yeah, against girls who are, the Canadian and American infrastructure for lady sport.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So much more developed.
The Americans, they were, like, when we played them, they were 10, 15 years professional.
Yeah.
So when we played America, like, these were girls who was elite athletes. Like, their profession was football, they got paid for it. So when we were playing against them, and with Germany and Holland, all these girls were semi-pro and professional, we were just amateurs. Because as you know, Ireland didn't come into force until 2017 where equal pay and all was that. But we were amateurs. We just went up to play for their country with pride. It was just pride. And going into the San Diego Stadium with 20,000 American people screaming, and going from that to 300 in Richmond Park watching you at home. It's so overwhelming that you just get on with it. Like you have to let the magnitude of the 20,000 people just sink you in for the first 5 minutes and then get on with it. But it's so overwhelming because you're coming from Richmond Park with 300 people watching you.
Yeah.
And that 300 people at the time was family members and friends, because it didn't get advertised then. It didn't even get said on the radio.
But even the social media and stuff now, it's so big. Like, what's Katie got? 300,000 followers on Instagram or something. Like, she's a huge star.
But that's where the difference is. They get told they got picked for Ireland through a text message, an email, where we had to wait for letters. Every time we went for trials for Ireland, we had to wait for letters.
You know what you mentioned there a few times? Pride. And this is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, because I've been that kid who all I wanted to do was get an Irish cap, and it never happened for me. But then stepping back and looking at the FAI being such a shambles for the last 20, 30 years, not kicking on from Italian 90, not kicking on from 1994, not allocating resources equally to the girls and the guys. And they play on that pride. They know how proud everyone is to play for their country. They know they're going to keep turning up almost regardless of the conditions. So because of that, we see such horrific treatment of especially female athletes in your era, where you're having athletes that, getting changed in public toilets and given tracksuits back after games.
Yeah, like that was, the 2017 thing was a fed up thing. We're not doing it anymore. We're fed up.
Just for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, tell us about 2017.
2017, the Irish ladies team had a press conference because the girls were still getting changed into second-hand tracksuits in toilets in the airport. And That was 2017, but in my era when I played, we did that. That was just a regular thing for us. A regular thing, getting under 21 boys, jerseys, second-hand jerseys to play in, second-hand tracksuits to put on us when we're going, getting changed on boats, getting changed in toilets, getting changed in cars.
There's no dignity to that.
No dignity whatsoever. But the only dignity that we had was the pride playing for our country. Because if we didn't, who goes to Wales on a half six boat in the morning from P&O ferries, gets to Holyhead, travels to Wales, and then has another 5-hour travel on a bus.
Then expect to play a match the next day.
Play a match the next day, and then come back the next day on the boat.
And then to work.
And that was a regular thing to us. Thursday, Friday, Saturday was you come in, you get your bag, you didn't know what was in your bag, whether it was socks, shorts. You had to look in your bag, and if you hadn't got it, you had to beg them to give it to you. A T-shirt, a shorts, just a attire for the weekend that we're going to be there. This is not football gear now. This is not jerseys or tracksuits. This is just the shorts and the T-shirts that you're meant to wear around the hotel while you're there. So it wasn't only the tracksuits and the thing, it was the meals, it was the food, it was the training gear not turning up. It was so unprofessional that I actually don't know how they got away with it.
You know, you could describe you as many words, but one of them no one will ever describe you as is bitter or resentful, because everything comes out of your mouth only positive. But with the revelations we've seen in countless biographies from especially the male team through the 90s and into the 2000s, where they talk about they're flying in coach and the executives are up front in first class, they're staying in 5-star hotels, the lads are in motels, and you know the circumstances you're describing, they aren't unique to you. They're happening in the lads team, maybe not to the same extent. But the executives had cash.
Oh,
you know, does that not annoy you?
Or it absolutely annoys me and frustrates me, because I know the cash was there. But as you said, it wasn't coming around. They weren't spending it on us. They weren't spending it on grassroots. I don't know where the money was going, but they had money. But it doesn't matter. The resources for us was zero. That was it. The buyers got everything with the resources that they had. They kept it away from the buyers as well.
Yeah.
You know, so that'd tell you the buyers was getting second hand. We were getting third world. Yeah. You know, literally third world. I remember we were sitting in a hotel and their food hadn't arrived, and they put a banana on a plate, like one banana on a plate, because we couldn't eat the food because there was regulations. If you eat that food, it might be poison, and you know, we had to have our own food. But we've gone to Russia and our food didn't turn up.
So what do you do?
McDonald's.
Oh my God.
Yes. McDonald's or KFC.
So you're going to play an international?
Yes. And we had to
piling into McDonald's?
Yeah, for food, because our food didn't turn up. You know, so, and this was a regular thing for us. An absolute, especially if we were going to the likes of Russia, Belarus, foreign places, Luxembourg, Latvia, to play these so-called poor teams. We ended up being like them when we went over. The hotels is absolutely disgraceful. I think we stayed in a brothel at one time. That's the God's honest truth.
How did that come about?
Because when we went into the hotel, lift up sheets, blood there, went in to have a shower, there was just them rub up hole coming out of the thing. I no matter where I went, I brought my own sheet and my own pillowcase. Religiously. It doesn't matter you're staying in a 5-star hotel. That was just the thing that I did. But these hotels had nothing. Absolutely nothing. If we stood out on the Bankley, the brickwork would have fell. It was that bad. And I remember my roommate saying, Livy, what are we going to do? Like, I said, well, I'm sleeping in my cars. I'm not sleeping in that. You know, so that's how bad it was. But still, we went into the dressing rooms. I had a shower before we started the game, because we hadn't had a shower because we were in the hotel that had nothing. And then put on your lovely new gear, your lovely second-hand gear, and try to feel good about yourself and going out and play for your country. But that was the norm for us, absolute norm. The only time it got better was probably the last 2 years of my playing days. We got proper tracksuits, proper women's fit. We got €30 a day for training and going away.
But the crazy thing about this is, sport now, cycling's been one of the pioneering sports, and we call it the accumulation of marginal gains. And that just means looking for every area that you can find an advantage. Can you find more comfortable pillows? Can you find more comfortable mattresses? Yeah. What if we change the fabric softener on this kit to something else? And seemingly you might think, oh, well, that makes no difference. But when you add up hundreds of these little things, it turns into a huge difference, maybe a 3%, a 5% difference.
In my later, as I said, my later career, I never knew about nutrition. I never knew about like chicken, pasta and rice. I only knew in my later years you need a nutrition in a team, you need a physio in a team, you need a doctor, because I only seen all this at international level. It wasn't at club level. What we had was a manager and that was it. No physio, no team. But when the nutritionists came in, I never forget, it was about 4 or 5 years before I stopped playing. And I was like, so how come I had a career for nearly 30 and 12 years on McDonald's, takeaways, and I play to the standard of international level.
Yeah.
So why is all this now nutrition, spaghetti, chicken, rice? And those actually, girls live by the nutrition nowadays. But then our nutrition was a Mars bar and a few jellies.
But there's a company, I'm not sure if you heard of Kitman Labs.
Yes, yeah.
So Kitman Labs, for anyone who doesn't know, they're actually, one of the founders is from Clontarf. And they have hundreds of cameras around the pitch. And they'll go in and they'll look at Olivia in training and they'll say, okay, her time to sprint from 0 to 10 kilometers an hour it takes her 2.4 seconds to accelerate to there. And they'll create hundreds of data points about you as an athlete. Yeah. And now they'll have these cameras running every time you're in training and every time you're in a match. And they'll look for deviations from your baseline. And they'll be able to say to the manager, you know what, if you take Olivia off at 20 minutes to go, we're actually going to get another 3 games out of her this season. So with technology like that, nutrition, physios, instead of 54 international goals, could you have got 60, 64, 70 international goals?
Probably.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a great point, actually, because imagine if we'd have what we had today 10 years ago, even 10 years ago.
You succeeded not because of that environment. You succeeded in spite of that environment.
I succeeded because I was a winner. I don't like losing. Never was, never did. But the reason why I had a prolonged career, it was for the passion for the game. And not just the winning. It's just I love being around the environment. They were my club mates, they were my roommates. And going into camp, it gives you that little, if you're 100% going in, it gives you that little 10% going in as well. When you meet up, and where at club level, it's like, this is every week. But with international level, it was just going into your club mates and you haven't seen them in ages and having a bit of laugh and catching up. And so even that little thing gave me a boost. It didn't have to be. It didn't have to be a sports psychologist. It didn't have to be a sports psychologist telling me you need to have fun with your friends. I had it anyway, because we all had great camaraderie in the things growing up.
What was your proudest moment?
My proudest moment was probably scoring on my debut.
Really?
Yeah, because I wanted to be the best in the world and the best at what I can do. And scoring on my debut, I actually said to myself, I can do this. I can score against international teams. And I did it for a long time. And every single time I scored a goal, the feeling was different. It wasn't the same feeling every time you score a goal for your country. It's completely different, a different sort of pride, a different feeling of being humble, a different feeling of the people you were with at the time as well.
And what's breaking the record? What's that feel like? Does that feel like, it's scoring's brilliant. Well, I don't know how many people have scored internationally. It's not a lot, but still a sizable amount of people have scored for their country. Not that many people have broke the record ever, goals scored for their country.
No.
That's a pretty, writing your name in history books type moment.
Yeah, a lot of people say that to me, like, what does it feel like to be Ireland's top? There's no feeling. It's feeling of, when I go into Abbottstown, I see me little trophy cabinet and I say to myself, yeah, I did that. Like, I look at that and I go, I did that. And then when I say I'm the top goal scorer in Ireland, somebody has to say it to me for me to understand how big it is, if you know what I mean. Because I don't say to myself every day, oh, you're Ireland's top goal scorer. So if I'm out and I haven't heard it for about a month or 3, and then somebody says it to me, I get pride. I get a little bit of goosebumps.
You know what I think it's important for as well? Like, I look at how much my dad poured as a volunteer into a football team for so long. So I can only imagine it's the same volunteers all around the country do this. But it's every person you interacted with from the moment you rocked up to Sheriff Street with your boots inside a plastic bag because you really hadn't even got a bag, rocking up there. Every manager or person that you touched along the way felt pride in that moment as well. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I can name the managers on my hand who I had for the, like, Siney Bradish, absolute gentleman, top trainer. He's probably the only man that I actually gave 100% for in training for club level. Like, because I was lazy. I used to go train. He said, right, what are we doing today? And it was football. I loved it. It was running, going to the toilet. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, but Siney was my club manager. Noel King, absolutely excellent. Linda Gorman, international manager. Who else? One or two of them. And like, every single one of them gave me something different in football.
Is there any part of you that is disappointed of the generation you were born in? Like, if you were born 20 years later, you were playing for Barcelona or Man United.
Stop, I know. I've been asked, Olivia, would you like to be 20 years younger? I says, obviously, everyone wants to be 20 years younger. But I really firmly believe that I would be playing in a top league. And
100%.
Not throwing roses at myself, but I know I'd be able for the likes of Man United, Man City, Arsenal women to play in that environment today if I was 26, 25 years of age.
Because you look at, you know, the likes of the Irish girls now, and they're in the top clubs in the world. How do you view that? Is there a part of you that's jealous of them?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's not jealous of them and what they're achieving, and just jealous of, why can't it be me? Why can't I be 25 years younger and blah, blah, blah. But I get pride in the Ireland girls when I see them coming out and play, and me knowing that I had a little bit of that for them to carry on and to do, and what they're doing now today with the Irish team. But at club level, like, I know 100%. I absolutely love when I hear, like, Izzy Atkins has gone to Crystal Palace, Jess Stapleton went to, who'd she go to? She went to Brighton there the other day, alone. Like, and these are girls that's been at these clubs for a long time, but obviously they're going to better their career. And it's brilliant, because Jess only went over last year. She's not getting a game at West Ham, but she'll get a game now with Brighton, you know. So people have to understand, the Irish girls going over to England are not just walking into teams. You have to fight and have to train and be on top of your game to get into these teams. You know, so I know my hard work and my passion, where I'm training and doing my stuff, I know I'd be on one of them top teams. But me, my ideal team now at the moment is just Barcelona.
Brilliant.
I've
seen some highlights of recently on YouTube. And
absolutely, like 90,000 watching them for the Champions League final. And like, even Xavi is at the saying, even Pep Guardiola is at the saying that football is better than men's and women's put together. Like, I mean, the combinations, the 3x3s, they don't stay in the one spot. And I remember being on a podcast and one of the girls says, I said, Barcelona.
I think women's football is in an interesting place, because there is sports where women's sport is actually just way more enjoyable to watch than men's. Like, I'll only watch women's tennis. I won't watch men's tennis. Men's tennis is shit. They're too powerful. There's too many aces in it, so you don't get the rallies. So women's tennis is way more enjoyable to watch. With the direction football has gone, I could see in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, I'd be just so drawn to men's football because it's the physicality of it.
Yeah.
The way it's gone though with FIFA, the physicality's gone. It's non-contact. It's nearly like basketball.
Well, me at the moment now, I think the women is doing the 50-50s and sliding tackles and blah, blah, blah. And they're just getting up and play. Like I was watching, I don't know who it was yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, get up. You know, like, I mean, the men is falling down, literally with a push.
Yeah, diving's a new
Yeah,
art.
but you see, that's the referee's fault. That the referee sees him diving, he needs to book him, but they're not getting booked. And they're like diving for penalties that can change the direction of a game.
But it seems like a decision that was taken at FIFA that this is the direction maybe 10, 15 years ago that they want football to go. And I actually think if that's the decision they've taken, that they want football to be more like basketball than rugby, they want to take that physicality out of it. Players like Vinnie Jones, the limited talent, but just bruisers. They wouldn't make it in the modern game.
That's what I was going. Vinnie Jones were making the modern, and neither with Dennis Wise. Because they were rough players. But what you said about the physicality, there's absolutely none. You're not even allowed to go up for a ball for a keeper in the men's game. Yeah. I'm talking about. Like, I mean, in the women's game, it's the same, but I just think, I've said this since last year, Anthony, and I'm going to say it again. The women's game is going to take over from the men. I think it is. Absolutely.
Because I think obviously men have more testosterone, and if it's a pure physical contest, people are going to prefer to watch the Irish men's rugby team than the Irish women's rugby team, because it's such a physical sport. But with the direction football's going, where physicality isn't the most important thing, it's skill, it's organisation, it's imagination. These are values that are cherished more now in football. I can see women's football eclipsing the lads. Definitely the Irish international team already has.
I said it last year, and I said it every single podcast I've done. I've said it. To get the first $1 million or £1 million player of a girl is going to be this year. And I know that for a fact. There's a girl gone from Colombia now. She's gone to Chelsea because Sam Kerr got injured. And that's a 450,000 transfer. Yeah. That's the biggest so far this year. And it's not stopped, it's not finished.
And are the girls getting paid well now?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, as I said, we got paid €30 a day for going training and playing for our country. Girls are getting 30,000 a day now to play for their country and play for their clubs. There's a difference. You know, and long may it last. And it is going to last because it's not going to go backward. The women's football is just going to grow and grow and grow. And any company, enterprise, if they don't get on the bandwagon and get onto a team and sponsor and be involved, they're in the wrong environment. Because if I was a company now at this moment, this day and age, as you said, the women's, it is going to explode. So if you have a company, do get onto it. No, I'm not saying it here just now, but I'm talking about any company, because I've said that on every podcast. If I had my own company, I'd be on top of a women's game for the revenue, for the everything. Because every single team in the top 10 in England has a sponsor and has a company with them.
Your career intersected with one of the greatest Irish athletes ever at international level, Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
What was that like playing with Katie Taylor? She's apparently a good footballer.
Katie had made it. Katie had made a centre midfield like Roy Keane.
I think Katie would have made a cyclist. She would have made a Formula 1 driver.
Yeah, true. She'd have made a basketball player. She made a tennis player.
Whatever she wanted to be.
Because we used to go to a tournament with the Irish team in Portugal, and I remember just one day talking to it, and I was like, what do you want in life? Like, what is it boxing or football? I said, you're here. I said, you're training, you're getting up at 5:30, doing your boxing training, coming back, having breakfast with us, doing your football training, then going home, then do more training, boxing. I said, what do you want? She said, Olivia, she told me then that she wanted to be an Olympic boxer. And I said, well, you're in the wrong environment. You need to either pick one or the other, because you can't give 100% to two. And that's when she decided she didn't want to be a boxer.
Did you know, just being around her, demeanour-wise, this is someone who's going to be a champion?
Absolutely. What girl gets up at 5:30 in the morning with the Irish football team to train boxing for 2 hours and then come and have basketball and then play air training for 2 hours, go back and have our lunch, do air training for another hour, and then do our own training? I was in awe of our physicality, our training and our dedication. Then,
if you could rewind all the way back to Olivia growing up in Sheriff Street, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
It's a hard one, it is, because I never wanted to leave Sheriff Street, but I had to leave it to get where I wanted to. But the advice I'd give young Olivia is, I should have stayed around. in charity. I feel like I could have done more in my community to help them to get out of the situation that they were in. But I tried. I did some of it worked, but I would love to go back and see could I have helped another few people.
Olivia, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Anthony. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please click up here. There's another video I know that you're absolutely going to love. And we're just getting started, so subscriptions really matter. Click over here and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our amazing upcoming guests.